Hello there, my name is Marvin, and I just wanted to introduce myself to members of the sub to thank you for all of the work that you're doing because I have learned more about dangerous breed dogs in the last month and a half than I ever have my entire life. And it really helps to illustrate what a problem it is for our society here in the United States. The reason I'm speaking out is because I'm definitely concerned about one of the proposed rule changes in the government, H.R. 5828. Pets Belong with Families Act that would allow dangerous breed dogs into public housing. And I cannot think of a worse idea. I actually know somebody who lives in public housing, and so she's told me stories. The public housing, they're currently dealing with this issue. Like the dogs aren't even supposed to be there, but certain people bring their pets and they keep them around and they walk them at night after the public housing authorities oftentimes go home. And these dogs, they are just meant to look as intimidating as possible. Spiked collars, thick chains. They're not meant to be friendly, and they are meant to be intimidating, and oftentimes that is the case for the people who do live in these communities. They're afraid of retaliation, and so they don't say anything. But they, at the same time, don't really care for these very vicious-looking and sometimes dangerous dogs to live right next to them. And you have to remember, in public housing, there are tons of children, and many people there don't have a personal vehicle, so they have to walk everywhere. People deserve the right to feel safe in their own communities. And it's definitely telling, right, that in apartment complexes, many insurance companies will not cover them if they allow dangerous breed dogs, and so these types of animals are just restricted from the get-go. So if apartment complexes and insurance companies won't allow the dogs, why would we make it legal to bring them into public housing? That is just a terrible, terrible mix that will have bad outcomes for everyone, especially other pet owners. Well, a lot of folks have very small pets. The news often reports on deaths, and people every year are killed in the most horrific manner from dangerous breed dogs. You don't want to see the pictures of the video because you will never forget it, and it is something that should not be allowed to happen. We really need to stop the free roaming dogs that are just chasing people down like lions in our street. And even just when you are mauled, maybe you survive, but the damages can be long-lasting, permanent disfigurement, disability. The list goes on. But the main victims of the vicious breed dogs are other people's pets, because these are fighting dogs and they constantly go after other animals. Even if people have their dogs leashed, the pit bulls, they get out, or they overpower their owners to get on somebody else's pet. And once they've got that animal in their mouth, they do not let go. It takes 3 or 4 people, hitting the dog, trying to choke it out to finally let the dog go, the victim's dog. And many times those dogs do not survive. And then even if they do survive, the veterinarian bills run into the thousands. And sadly, a lot of the pit bull owners are irresponsible, and that tends to lead to them being judgment proof. So there is no justice, there's no assets to sue the irresponsible owner for, and a lot of victims are just left with expensive medical bills that they have to take care of all on their own. And that's just not fair. I don't think that is just. Another problem that's not really reported on in the wider media is the fact that our shelters are being overrun with pit bulls. They're breeding out of control. There really have to be restrictions on it. And so the shelters are just giving the dogs away to anyone who wants them. You have a lot of lower income Americans. They can't afford a $1,000 Labrador or a Chihuahua, but they go down to the shelter, which has almost all these pit bulls. And the shelter workers, they really love their animals. They don't want to see them die. And so they're doing everything they can to find homes for the dogs. But at the same time, too, they're not really being forthcoming about some of the downsides to the dangerous breed dogs. Like pit bulls after age 2, they become much more violent. I've seen so many pictures and videos of dangerous breed dog owners having their very small children around these animals. And while it's not a guarantee that something will happen, I think it is an unnecessary risk. And people at the very least should be informed of the possibility. And like I mentioned before, apartment complexes will not allow these dogs. And so when the shelters give the dangerous breed dogs to lower income Americans, it's really putting quite a burden on them, because after their current lease expires, or maybe their management where they're staying at finds out that they have a dangerous breed dog, either the dog has to go or both of them have to go. And so it's going to be a challenge for them to find housing. And life is already tough enough. So it is certainly high past time that we address these issues. And I don't want to wave a magic wand and make all the dogs that are alive currently disappear, but I do believe that we should start some long-term planning. The dogs have a life cycle of about 16 years on the upper end. So if we start neutering the animals 16 years from now, we will not have the problems that we are seeing on our streets today. And certainly, I want to make another video where I address our representatives who are standing up for this idea of bringing in the dangerous breed dogs into public housing a little bit more to the point with some more data. But I don't want to see that happen. It would be bad news for a lot of people. Anyways, thank you for your consideration. I will see you next time.